Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to the channel. Sorry I've been a bit silent for a couple of weeks, lots of things going on. It's the time of year where generally everybody slows down a little bit with the motorcycling. We have had some cold weather here, similar to UK temperatures, but still with sunshine, so you can see today it's slightly overcast. Currently 11 degrees centigrade, we've got a high of about 18 today. 18, as long as there's a bit of sun, feels quite nice. It's great motorcycling weather. But generally in the mornings we've had some minuses, 0, we've had a bit of frost on the vehicles in the morning, and the heated seats and heated grips have been a bit of a godsend on the 900 DSX or the DS900X, whichever way you want to go with it. I notice on the official website in Spain they're still saying the 900 DSX. So, lots of you guys now in the UK will be using the 900 DSX. It's being sold in abundance in the UK. There are orders being placed, and very shortly most people in Europe and in the UK will be receiving the MY 2025 model. Now the 2025 model has got a few upgrades which I would think some of them would be possible to do with the 2024 model. One of the major upgrades it's got is cornering ABS. It's a 6-axis cornering ABS, very useful if you're going downhill and you hit a sharp bend you need to anchor on, especially if you're a more novice rider and you're jumping onto something and you're not used to braking coming into corners or trail braking, etc. So that's going to be a real added bonus on the 2025 model. Something that obviously the 24 model is not going to be upgradable to, because it's a Bosch system that's integral into the bike. Another major feature that they're touting on the Spanish website, which is Voge in Spain .es or vogespain.es, is the advantage of mirroring to the screen. Now, until we actually see it in action, or we see one of the Chinese bikes with this actually working, we're not going to get a full idea of it. I believe that it's an upgrade for the 525 model as well. I've seen a few hints in different forums of that on the internet, and the only caveat with that, mirroring your phone to the screen, is that if you wanted to go down another route, like a separate tablet type device, which I'm thinking of doing, I said in an early video, so that's independent from my phone, so I can have my phone separate, I can have a tablet just on the bike for that purpose, for media, for mapping, and obviously when you stop you can do a little bit of work on that tablet and you can save rides and you can put GPS files onto the memory that you've got on there and transfer them onto other devices as well. So a lot of people are looking at that option. At the moment you can see I've still got the Carpio Ride 702, which has been flawless, apart from the time that I dropped it many moons ago and I just chipped the corner of the outer glass on the corner, and it's just put a masking tape over and I sprayed the corner just to bond the crack together, which it has done. It's not had any detriment on the use of the device. It's been really a good device to use, both for media and mapping. Obviously if you're on mapping you can go full screen. I'm on OSM maps at the moment, so you can do a free ride on there. The OSM mapping, you can have downloaded maps, and you can have rides that are put in by GPX off other riders who've done off and on-road rides. The other one I use quite a lot is Waze. I like Waze because you get a lot of information. Google have started to do that on Google Maps, and Google, as many of you will know, own Waze anyway, so a lot of the features are integrated on both systems. Yeah, so 10 months, coming up to 10 months, we're into 9 months of owning this bike. I got it in April, so once we get into February we're looking at around 10 months. And as I've said in earlier videos, we all were, I suppose, in Europe generally. Spain had a big influx of the bikes in April, one of the first places to get them, alongside Portugal. So the Iberian Peninsula got a massive shipment in first. Mine was one of those first shipped into Spain. So I've got a pretty good idea how this bike goes, and obviously with having other bikes to compare it to, I can compare the bike, its foibles, its possible flaws, or they're not flaws, they are foibles of the bike and how the bike rides. I've noticed a few reviewers now in the UK who obviously followed my videos in the past have been saying about the engine note and how it feels comparable to other bikes. Now, when I first got this bike, I did say in one of my earlier videos that it's not comparable to a Japanese bike. Japanese bikes tend to be super smooth. You'll know if you've ridden a KTM or a Triumph or a Ducati, they can be a bit raucous, and you've got that bit of a different feel to them to a Japanese bike. You can definitely feel they're a European bike, and this bike definitely feels more European than Japanese, although we know it's Asian built in China. That said, a lot of people who are familiar with the BMW twins will know that when you jump on this and you jump off a 900GS or an F850GS or even the older F800GS, they'll instantly recognise the engine mannerism and the way it feels. They'll recognise the chassis, the way it feels, because the rolling chassis and engine, as we all know, comes directly from the Lonsin factory, and they also make them for BMW. So, as I said in one of my very early videos when I bought this back in April, and I got lambasted by all the BMW riders saying that it's not the same, it's a totally different chassis, it's a different engine, it's got different components. They wouldn't put a BMW engine in that bike because they'll have used cheaper valves, cheaper pistons, etc, etc. Now we know from experience and delving into it that it's pretty much as I said it was. It's the same engine, same rolling chassis, and for all intents and purposes the same wheels. I would say I'm 100% certain that that's the case. So it has got a raucous feel about it. It's got a when you wind it on like that, you've got a throaty growl to it. The gearbox and throttle mannerism, now you'll know from early on with mine when I got it, mine had 4.1, which was the release software version on the bike. And the crazy thing is, all the main dealerships back in April, May in Spain didn't have any software updates, never done any software updates to all their previous Voges. Go into other garages like Triumph and Ducati, all mainstream bikes, the garages don't do any updates whatsoever to the ECU or the screen itself, unless there's a problem. They have to put it on an OBD, do a testing, then they might put a later software update onto it, purely when the customer said, look, it's not running right, it doesn't feel right. If they've got a software update available, they will do that then voluntarily. What's happened with Voge, and it happened initially in Australia with the MT800. The MT800 came out with the 790 KTM engine, and the first thing all the early riders said was it's really twitchy, in slow traffic, it's unrideable, it's not a nice experience to ride by wire. So in Asia and in Australia, what CF Motor did, they released a software patch straight away to their dealerships. They put that on, and that somewhat negated the problems that riders were having with the bike. When we first got the Voge 900 DSX, when I first got mine, I've said before, it was a Marmite experience. Some days I'd go out and I'd really enjoy it, other days I'd go out and I thought the gearbox was notchy, the throttle response was notchy, depending on the temperatures. We get very high temperatures here in the summer, and obviously but getting in April, we're heading into the warm season. So yeah, I had a few misgivings to start with, and someone contacted me and said, look Paul, there's a 4.3 software update that irons a few of these things out. And prior to that, from the CF Moto website, CF Moto were offering a throttle reset, and it's a standard throttle reset that BMW do on all their bikes if the battery's disconnected, and it's just a throttle mod reset like you would on a car when you're setting the service indicators. There's a series of things you need to do, and the video's on my channel to find that throttle reset. And all it basically does is sets the throttle back to the factory reset, so it's how it came out the factory. So all the people who've been messing with your bike prior to you getting it, not running it on the main road, but obviously revving it, having it ticking over, playing around with it, the throttle response gets learnt by the ECU and the programming in the bike to the way that the rider rides, and this simple process resets the throttle. And I put that on initially, that worked wonders, it was amazing, like night and day. And then someone told me about the 4.3 reset, and I did that, and I was happy with the bike. It was fine, I didn't have any problems. I occasionally needed to do the throttle reset again. I never did the 4.3 update again. Once I'd initially done it, I found it to be okay. So periodically, if it started to get a little bit twitchy, I'd do the throttle reset, and that would iron that out. Anyway, the 4.7 came out, and everyone said, oh, you need to try the 4.7. Some guy contacted me very kindly and sent me the file through and said, why don't you try this 4.7, which I did. We all know it's a gamble, flashing anything to your phone, to any device, so I tried the 4.7, and again there was a big improvement across the range on the bike. It felt different, the engine note felt different. Now, a lot of you guys, there's certainly a couple of reviewers now have had the 4.7 update. They go to MotoGP in the UK, who are an importer, they're not a main dealer. In Spain we have a full Voge network, so we have Voge main offices here in Spain, up in the north of Spain. They've got their big centre there, and that is networked out throughout Spain to a dealer network ship, and it is in most places in Europe. Portugal's the same, I believe France, they've all got their own independent Voge direct website. And now, a bit later, after I put the 4.7 update on, you were able to put the 4.7 update at the dealerships. Now, the caveat with that is this update, if you do it yourself, it takes about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But the dealerships need to book you in for a slot to do this, so the bike's got to come in, they've got to get into the workshop, they've got to make space. So the official bump that comes from Voge is that it's an half-hour slot, and that needs to be put into the timetable of the workshop, etc. Now you can imagine, as I've said before, there's well over 2,500 bikes sold here in the first 7 months or so here in Spain. You imagine them 2,500 bikes going back to the dealership, all wanting the 4.7 update on the bike. That's a lot of half hours, and it's if you're expecting that totally free when the bike is probably running fine on 4.3, or no different to your KTM or your Ducati or your Triumph that have a switchy ride-by-wire throttle. A lot of dealerships are not going to be interested in doing that, or they're going to balk at trying to do that. And MotoGP seem to be putting out a general response to people who are asking, saying that this update is purely for the screen, it doesn't do anything else. We know the 4.3 update corrected the initial 5,000 kilometre service interval to 10. We know that was on the screen, and a few other little tiny modifications on the screen, so we know there are some things it does. But when you look at the software update, it does the MCU, it does a plethora of different things on the screen, not just the screen or the software that's built into the head-up display. So I think likewise in Europe, if you try and get it done as well, mainland Europe I should say, most dealerships will balk at doing it if they can get out of it. They don't want to do it. They certainly want to fit it alongside a service that you're having done, because obviously if it's in for a service, the mechanic's got it on the ramp, he's draining the oil, it's nothing to connect an Android tablet to your bike and spend 5 minutes doing the update. So yeah, 10 months in, nearly 10 months in, what are my thoughts? Well, as I said early on, it was a love-hate relationship. 4.3 ironed out a lot of bugs. 4.7 for me has made this an absolutely superb bike. And I say that owning other bikes, bearing in mind that the Royal Enfield Super Meteor 650 has got to be the smoothest air-cooled parallel twin engine and gearbox I've ever ridden. It's butter smooth. It's such a joy to ride that bike. This bike, okay, the engine's gnarly and growly, it's not twitchy anymore on the throttle on mine. All these bikes, when you get past a certain mileage, will start to even out. I'm past 5,000 kilometres now, and once you get past the 5,000 kilometre mark, it really does iron out any bugs you've got on the bike. It gets really smooth. But everything is standing up really well, guys. I mean, in a couple of months' time, it'll be 12 months. It handles really well. You can see I'm chatting to you on one-handed around the bends. It just tips in really, really nice. Everything works perfectly on the bike. The only caveat, like I've said previously, is the switch gear, the indicator, and the cruise control switch feel a bit plastic and a bit flimsy. Obviously they're not. I've used them for 12 months, 10 months, and I've used them excessively, and nothing's fallen off, nothing's gone loose, nothing's failed to work. So I would imagine that's just part and parcel of keeping the bike to a set price point, if you like. They're obviously not going to put the most premium pineapple, they're called in Spain in Spanish, switch gear onto this bike, and you can understand that. The bike here in Spain, like I said previously, I paid €8,888 for mine. I paid another €888 for luggage, because in Europe, mainland Europe, the bike is sold without the luggage. The luggage is an optional extra. So the whole price of mine at the time I bought it in sterling came in at roughly £8,300 sterling. The new price with the extra few €100 they've added on comes in at about 8,500 sterling, which, to be honest guys, now is not a lot less than you're paying in the UK. I believe you're paying about £8,888 sterling. So you're within £400 of what we're getting the bike for in Portugal and Spain. No problems to mention. I've adjusted the chain once in the 8 months. I've dropped the oil myself to put a summer oil in. I'm going to drop it at 6,000 again, although it doesn't need dropping to 10,000, to put 10W40 back in. It's been fine on the 5W50. It's a thicker oil, viscosity oil for very high weather, and that's the ultimate they recommend in the Voge catalogue, or the Voge manual I should say. Temperatures up to 42 degrees, they recommend bumping up to 5W50, which I did. Excuse me guys. Again, a lot of negativity on that. You don't need it, you're damaging the fuel economy, the engine's working harder, etc, etc, etc. My fuel economy combined since 4.3, and that's with me using the luggage, full of luggage, my wife on the back, us going out, me riding in sports mode and road mode like I'm in now. I've got a combined consumption of 4.3 litres to 100 kilometres. Now, if you do the maths, you'll know that about 4.5 litres is roughly a gallon, and you'll know that 100 kilometres is 2/3 of 100, which is roughly 66. So, frog in the throat there, guys. So I can confidently say in mixed riding, town sports, pillion, luggage, this bike is currently doing around 66 miles per gallon average. So I don't think that's a bad fuel consumption, considering my Moto Guzzi at 1100 probably does about 40 miles per gallon. I would say that my Super Meteor 650 doesn't top that by much. That's probably doing a similar amount, 66 miles to the gallon maybe. So all in all, considering you've got a lump of a bike, you've got all the luggage on it, you've got the optional modes, it's a cracking bike. The brakes, when you first get the bike, you'll note that the front brake is not quite as grabby as you would expect from Brembo brakes. After you do 1,000 kilometres or more, they'll bed in and they become really, really nice to use, really confidence inspiring. The 21-inch front wheel on the bike, guys, don't let it put you off. A lot of people are saying on a lot of forums, I would buy the bike if it had a 17 front end. There's no logical reason to think that way. The bike handles no different to my old V-Strom 650. In fact, I would say it handles better. The suspension setup with it being adjustable is better than the 650 V-Strom, and the 21-inch front wheel as opposed to the 17 makes no difference whatsoever. It's fractionally slower turning in, I would say, but the amount that you'd notice, most riders or the average rider would notice. The steering damper does a great job on any high-speed riding. If you're going over 130, 140 kilometers an hour, you've got the luggage on the back. There's no hint of a wobble. There's nothing. It's as straight as a die. Riding in heavy wind or side winds, the weight of the bike stays planted on the road. The head-up display is really crystal clear in all weathers. It's really easy to read. Everything about the bike is superb. The blind spot mirrors still functioning perfectly. The radar on the back still functioning. If someone gets too close to you, they accelerate really quickly up behind you. the rear hazards will automatically start flashing to let them know that you're getting too close and you're a hazard to you. If you brake fairly hard, the rear brake light, instead of coming on solid, will start flashing really quickly to show the people in front, the people behind you, that you're braking heavily, as opposed to putting the hazards on the rear. If you're riding at night time and you're turning left or right, as you turn left or you turn right, that fog lamp on the side will illuminate the turn much better than just having the main headlamp. So there's some amazing features. I had the heated grips on this morning when it first came out. You can see it's only 8 degrees at the moment. We've got some sunshine, so I'm pretty well protected behind this new screen. The new screen, I put a video on YouTube a while back. This is from AliExpress. This is the frosted screen, and I believe it's about 8 centimeters or so above the original screen when it's on its highest setting like it is at the moment. It's not as fully wind protected as the setup I had on the original screen, so I had a diverter on the top, a wind deflector, and one either side. That was totally air-free bubble behind that. It was amazing, but I do like this frosted setup. You can get this screen in a higher screen, but it doesn't come in the frosted screen. Obviously, for safety reasons, you need to have a clear line of sight through the screen. So guys, what I can say is that in 10 months, or shortly 10 months of ownership, I've really enjoyed the bike. I've had no real qualms after the initial couple of months of getting used to the throttle and getting that remapped and sorting that out. Like I say, now it's as smooth as any other bike. I wouldn't say it's 100%. And now again in town you do get the odd little blip or glitch on the throttle, but no different to a KTM, a Triumph, BMW. All the BMW twin cylinders are very similar, the way they ride and the throttle response. Build quality. Someone had said that it'd be interesting to see in a couple of years' time. Well, fortunately I live in a very dry climate. We get probably about 40 days of cloud, and during that 40 days a bit of rain, so it's fairly dry here, so I'm not going to probably experience any corrosion issues. But different forums I've been on, I've seen comments by BMW riders, BMW 1200GS, BMW parallel twin riders, who were saying that within 12 months, 18 months, they've had a bike in the UK. They may have left these bikes outside, I don't know, but they've experienced corrosion, very thin paint on the BMWs, so that may be a kickback to the rolling chassis coming out of the Lonson factory, I don't know, but it just shows that all bikes experience some sort of corrosion at some point if they're not looked after and well treated. So guys, yeah, I've got a fuel light flashing. That was one of the reasons I came along this particular road. One of the foibles that this bike still does have, when it came out I had 2 bars from empty, so the original being the red flashing one you see now, and then 1 bar up. To me that would equate to 1/3 of a tank, and I would say that that should give me a good 80 kilometers before I need filling up. I've probably done 20 kilometers and now it's flashing red, as if to say if you don't get some fuel very quickly you're going to be stuck. So that has never probably changed from the initial bike that I had in the start. One thing that has changed is the temperature seems to be a lot more consistent. You can see now it's only down on the low end. It used to get up frequently and the fan would kick in on the 4.1, which was the original software. And also the fueling, when you filled up on the early software updates, it would take a while. You'd come out of the garage and you'd still be on either empty or 1/3 of a tank, and you'd drive probably 5 kilometers and suddenly it'd go bump and show totally full. So a lot of little glitches have been fixed, and you do get teething problems with all bikes when they're new. But this one, I would say, above all, has stood up fairly well. There's been no recalls at all on the bike that I'm aware of. So guys, yeah, if you're in the UK and you're looking to buy the new one that's arriving in February, if you can get your hands on one, put your money down and grab one. You won't be sorry at all. So guys, ride safe. Keep an eye out for my videos. I'm sorry this is a rehash of old thoughts, but it's interesting to share my thoughts as we go along, and then we come up to the year mark on the bike and give you an idea. I mean, the gear changing is beautifully smooth on it now. The quick shift is a lot better than it was initially on the original software update. So all in all, a good all-round package, guys. Well built, well presented, high-end components. So there we have it. So yeah, ride safe. See you in the next one, guys. Peace out and take care.